Barbara Broccoli has spent decades protecting James Bond, so why did she agree to walk away right now? For a few years, I've been saying that this could happen, and now that it's been agreed, not yet finalised though, I want to break down why I think she made this decision. From Bond's shocking death in No Time to Die to creative burnout, these are the reasons that I think Barbara Broccoli is giving up creative control of 007. Was the ending of No Time to Die part of a much larger plan? Well, you may have noticed that Bond died at the end of No Time to Die, which had never happened before in the franchise's history, and to be honest, I think most Bond fans never expected to happen. There had been rumours in the tabloids, of course, and when people pointed those out, I always dismissed it. I really did not believe that they would kill Bond off. That's probably my biggest fail regarding Bond news, I've got to say. And, it was a definitive ending, not just for Daniel Craig, but perhaps for Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson too. Was this their way of closing the book on the Eon era Bond? And, if you knew that you were going to be stepping away from Bond, this would be the perfect way to do it on your own terms. But if you look at the larger picture, a few years ago, and I wish I could remember exactly when it was, but there were rumors that Eon was shopping the franchise around with, if I remember correctly, a price tag of $1 billion. So if that's true, maybe No Time to Die wasn't just about the storytelling or Daniel Craig's wish to kill Bond off at the end of his tenure. It was about setting up their exit, and perhaps the delays caused by the pandemic threw a spanner in the works with regard to that. So in reality, was Bond's death in No Time to Die their way of bidding the character farewell? But that wasn't the only reason. Barbara also lost her biggest ally. Okay, it leads me on to point 2. Michael G. Wilson's retirement at the end of No Time to Die, which, this I really expected. And again, I was talking about this when they were filming No Time to Die, that I expected it to be Michael G. Wilson's final Bond film, because he's now in his 80s. And as far as I understand it, he's had some ill health. And so, he can't keep going forever. There's a time when he has the right to say enough is enough. I don't want all the stress that goes with making Bond films. I just want to enjoy my remaining years. And he's a keen photographer, so why shouldn't he enjoy that? He has been involved with the Bond series since Goldfinger, as far as I can remember. I think the story goes that he was at the airport saying farewell to Cubby as he flew to the UK to start filming. And Cubby said, "Oh, it's a shame you don't have your passport, otherwise you could come along too." To which Michael replied, "Yes, I've got my passport here." I don't know if that is true or not, but it's a good story. So, over the years, he has worked on the scripts, and he was a writer on the series for a few films until taking over with his half sister Barbara after Cubby stepped back. So he has been at the head of Eon with Barbara for the past 30 years, since GoldenEye. So I think he deserves a good retirement too. So although we often talk about Barbara Broccoli as being Eon, she certainly is the public face of Eon. But it's always been a joint venture since they've been in charge. And from what I understand, he handled the legal, finance, and production details, while Barbara focused more on the casting and creative aspects. And they were each played to the other's strengths and weaknesses. They were a solid partnership. So if Wilson was about to step down, how did Barbara feel about that? Did she really feel that she could do it alone? Did she want Greg Wilson to step up into his father's role? Did he feel capable of doing it? Could she take on an outside partner, bring somebody else in? When you've been working with somebody so closely for so long, it becomes difficult. And she's not getting any younger either. She's in her 60s. So when you lose the person who's been by your side for decades, do you still want to go on fighting? Michael has been talking about how tiring it is to make Bond films for, decades actually. And so that is not going to change. And that fight that I was talking about, it's harder than ever because Hollywood has changed too. Over the last few years, the film industry has shifted dramatically, and Bond is no longer just a movie franchise. It's an IP that Amazon wants to exploit to its full potential. Amazon's takeover of MGM in 2021 actually brought financial stability to MGM for the first time in a long, long time. So Eon no longer had to worry about studio bankruptcies or delays caused by financial uncertainty. But that came with expectations from Amazon, who wanted Bond to be, more than a film once every 5 or 6 years, really, at the current rate. And, they wanted to expand it probably into streaming shows and various other things. We'll see how all that pans out, I guess. So in December 2024, reports surfaced that Barbara was not getting along with Amazon at all, and there was a major clash over creative control. And Amazon wanted faster Bond films, spin-offs, and a bigger universe, but Barbara has always been resistant to doing anything like that. So something clearly had to give on one side or the other. And just recently, since the deal was announced, it was reported that Jeff Bezos told Amazon execs to give them whatever it takes to buy creative control. And some reports frame this as him being furious at Broccoli's outspoken comments. But in reality, maybe he simply realized that she was close to the point where she just wanted to give in and sell up anyway. But it's not just about Amazon. Barbara herself maybe was already moving on anyway. Reinventing Bond once is hard, I bet. Doing it twice was maybe exhausting. And the Daniel Craig era was a massive creative effort, with the storytelling, the more emotional depth, and ultimately Bond's death. And she made no secret of the fact that she found it difficult to imagine doing Bond without Craig. And, ultimately that's what's going to happen. So once he retired from the role, there was no clear direction for Bond's future. And, casting a new Bond is more than just picking an actor. It's about deciding what Bond is in today's world. And she spent 3 decades defining Bond, and maybe she had nothing left to say. Creative burnout reaches all of us at some point in our lives in some respect, and maybe she had reached that point with James Bond. Bond has been with her all her life. Okay, so in between Bond films, something interesting happened, or not, if you wanted more regular Bond films. She found new creative passions. In between Bond films, Barbara started focusing on smaller, more personal projects. She produced a number of theatre productions. I think it was Macbeth with Daniel Craig, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and so on, and smaller films like Till. And it's more than possible that she found more fulfillment in making those smaller films than the high stakes pressure of Bond and all the stress that goes with it. And, When you've got nothing left to prove, she'd made a number of films with Michael, and you don't need the money. Do you keep going, or do you do something that makes you want to get up every morning? Barbara Broccoli's dedicated her life to James Bond, but even she knows when to step aside. Whether it was Daniel Craig's farewell or Michael G. Wilson's, whether it was Amazon's pressure or creative exhaustion, she decided it was the right time to move on. The truth is, there probably wouldn't have been a single reason for her to give up creative control. It was the likely result of multiple factors building up over time, but perhaps one of them was the straw that broke the camel's back. So what happens now? Is Bond in good hands, or is this the beginning of the end? Do you think Amazon will take Bond in the right direction, or is this a massive mistake? Let me know in the comments.